You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now.
This sick, twisted, and evil coward showed no regard for Laken or human life. We are asking that same be done to him.
Emotional pleas from the mother of murdered college student Laken Riley. What a judge has determined about Jose Ibarra's role in her killing that culminates a politically and emotionally charged case followed around the world. Then former Congressman Matt Gaetz remains in the hot seat over disturbing allegations as he vies for the Justice Department's top job. The House Ethics Committee's decision on whether to release more details on his alleged transgressions. And credit card debt continues its rapid climb. The unlikely duo in Washington that's hoping to make a big change.
Count 1, malice murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty.
Tonight, after a 4-day trial, the man accused of killing Georgia nursing student Laken Riley has been found guilty. A judge convicted Jose Ibarra on all 10 counts of murder, attempted sexual assault, and a host of other related charges. 22-year-old Riley was found dead in a wooded area on the University of Georgia's campus in February after she left home for a routine morning jog. Today, just before his sentencing, an emotional plea from Riley's mother.
He showed no mercy on Laken when she was begging for her life. There's no end to the pain and suffering that he inflicted on our family and our friends. I'm asking you to please give this monster life without any chance of parole.
Ibarra has been sentenced to life in prison with multiple consecutive sentences. As an undocumented migrant, the case against him became a rallying cry for immigration reform from many conservatives, including President-elect Donald Trump, who used the crime as a means to criticize President Biden's border policies. At least 2 people are dead following the bomb cyclone that is bringing strong winds, rain, and snow to the Pacific Northwest. One of the deaths came last night when a tree fell on a home, killing a woman inside. Another woman also killed by a tree that struck a homeless encampment in Linwood, Washington. Wind advisories right now in effect for Northern California through early tomorrow morning, with gusts reaching up to 45 to 50 miles per hour. The National Weather Service has also issued a flood watch until Saturday as the storm continues over the next few days. Meanwhile, in Washington, more than 400,000 customers still without power, almost all of whom are in King County, where Seattle is. And in California, nearly 40,000 outages reported, the vast majority along the northern border with Oregon following the storm. And the weather event will continue over the next few days, as I just mentioned, so you can follow all of our latest updates as we continue to track the developments both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com.
Mr. Chairman, did you guys vote to release the support?
The House Ethics Committee will not release their report on the investigation into Matt Gaetz, at least for now. The committee met this afternoon to discuss multiple items, but did not agree to make that report public. Matt Gaetz was on the Senate side today, along with Senator Marco Rubio, nominated for Secretary of State, and Vice President-elect Senator J.D. Vance. The trio looked to shore up support for the nominations when they're voted on in January. Gaetz is accused of sexual acts with a minor. Still, many Republicans want more information before approving him as the next Attorney General of the United States.
I was shocked by the nomination, given the many allegations, but that's why it's important that the Senate go through its process of making sure that we have a background check, that we have a Senate investigation, which involves extensive interviews and questionnaires, and then a public hearing.
House Speaker Mike Johnson is banning transgendered women from women's bathrooms on the House side of the Capitol. This after Congresswoman Nancy Mace introduced a House resolution to ban biological men from women's bathrooms. In January, Sarah McBride will be sworn in as the first transgendered woman to serve in Congress.
Women deserve women's only spaces, and we're not anti anyone. We're pro woman, and I think it's an important policy for us to to continue. It's always been I guess, an unwritten policy, but now it's in writing.
The speaker also made clear that there are unisex bathrooms available to anyone throughout the Capitol, and every member has a personal bathroom in their own office. But Democrats say it shows Republicans are focused on culture wars more than legislating regular business. The head of FEMA was back on Capitol Hill on Wednesday, facing more tough questions about allegations the agency has denied help to individuals based on their political views. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
New whistleblower allegations appear to show FEMA's discrimination against Republicans runs deep in the agency.
This is a serious accusation. We believe there's a pattern here.
On Tuesday, lawmakers grilling FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell on the culture at FEMA. Criswell recently fired a supervisor who told employees to skip houses with Trump signs when responding to devastated areas of Florida after Hurricane Milton.
You said this is isolated, reprehensible, hasn't happened. This is the only time. And they're saying, nope, 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 it's commonplace.
More stories like this emerging. A FEMA contractor reportedly telling Oversight Committee staff they recommend people remove Trump flags and signs from their yards because his FEMA supervisors view Trump supporters as domestic terrorists. Committee Chairman James Comer says this isn't the only one.
Since the hearing, we've had numerous people come forward and reach out to the Oversight Committee as well as various members of Congress and say similar stories in similar states where FEMA employees told them, if you want help from our agency, you better get rid of that Trump flag on your house. You better get rid of the Trump sign in your yard.
Meanwhile, Criswell back on Capitol Hill Wednesday, this time in front of the Senate, where the topic came up again.
This outrageous act stands in stark contrast to the very purpose of disaster relief.
Criswell maintaining FEMA does not tolerate such behavior. She's promised to request an Inspector General report into the discrimination.
We hold all employees accountable if they violate our standards of conduct.
And House Oversight Chairman James Comer says this behavior and alleged behavior by FEMA employees is in line with what they see as the weaponization of the federal government by the Biden administration.
And Kayla, the main reason Deanne Criswell was on Capitol Hill today was to discuss funding levels for FEMA. So what's the latest on that?
So Mayor Criswell testified that FEMA's disaster relief fund is rapidly nearing exhaustion. It's dwindled to less than $5 billion, which can sound like a very big number to regular people. But in terms of government funding, not a lot. Both Republicans and Democrats are pressing now for swift passage of emergency aid for FEMA so its ability to respond to new disasters is not jeopardized. Amira.
We know a lot of people out there really need that money. Kayla Gaskins, thank you so much for that live report. Roughly 40,000 health and service workers began a two-day strike on all campuses of the University of California network of schools today. Union leaders say the workers are understaffed and salaries don't meet cost of living needs. Despite the walkout, university officials say all operations remain open and they are still seeing patients. The picket lines will continue tomorrow until 4 p.m. Meantime, a transportation strike in Philadelphia has been avoided as SEPTA and the Transportation Workers Union announced a tentative one-year deal, including a 5% raise this afternoon. The agreement keeps about 5,000 bus, subway, and trolley workers on the job with no disruption to the roughly 700,000 people who rely on public transit each day. Louisiana's plan to make all of the state's public school classrooms post the 10 Commandments remains blocked as the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court denies the state's motion to overturn a district court ruling. The Fifth Circuit Court will still hold a January 23rd hearing before issuing its final decision. And looking ahead, on Friday, the Texas Education Board will hold a final vote on whether or not to add new Bible-infused teachings to elementary school curriculums. The board passed a procedural vote last night, 8-7. The plan is not mandatory for schools, but it is tied to funding, so many believe the measure will widely be implemented. Critics say they're concerned it's a plan to indoctrinate impressionable children.
These lessons are being promoted as a way to improve reading. So these are seen as a way to correct that problem, but they are being used as a backdoor way to increase discussion of Christianity, and I would argue to promote Christianity. as the most important tradition.
Susan Smith, a South Carolina woman who admitted to drowning her 2 young boys 30 years ago, will stay behind bars for at least another 2 years after a parole board unanimously denied her to exit. In 1994, Smith put 2 of her sons, ages 3 and 14 months, into their car seats and rolled her car into a lake, then told officers someone had abducted her children. Today, she confessed about the reason she didn't tell the truth, while her ex-husband reacted to the board's decision.
I didn't lie to get away with it. I really didn't. I was just scared. I didn't know how I could tell the people that loved them that they would never see them again. I didn't know how I could tell David he couldn't see his sons again.
I'm not looking forward to it in 2 more years to go through this again, but at least I know for now she'll still be behind bars. And for 2 more years, there'll still be justice for Michael and Alex.
Tonight, former One Direction band member Liam Payne has been laid to rest. Close family and friends of the British singer, along with his former One Direction bandmates, gathered to mourn at his funeral outside of London. Payne died in October when he fell from the 3rd floor of a hotel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The country's public prosecutor's office says the 31-year-old had alcohol, cocaine, and a prescription antidepressant in his system. 3 people are facing charges in connection to his death. And when we come back, as tensions with Russia escalate, the threat that forced the U.S. Embassy in Kiev to close. Then Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders, they don't agree on a whole lot, but one thing that brings them together could save you some money. Plus, 4 students arrested for pinning up controversial posters at the University of Rochester, while disagreements on campus now grow on how or even if they should be punished. We'll be right back. In Kiev, Ukraine, the U.S. Embassy closed today after receiving information of a potential Russian air attack. The embassy has told employees to shelter in place and U.S. citizens elsewhere in the capital to be ready if an air alert is announced. The warning coming just a day after Ukraine fired its first round of U.S.-made longer-range missiles into Russia after being green-lighted by the Biden administration to do so, which Russia has said would make the United States and its interests vulnerable to counterattacks and even nuclear aggression.
The draft resolution has not been adopted owing to the negative vote of a permanent member of the Council.
A UN resolution demanding an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza will not hold after the U.S. voted it down because it failed to require the release of hostages there in Gaza. This as Hamas reiterates there will be no swap deal between hostages and Palestinian prisoners until Israeli forces completely retreat from the enclave. In Gaza, where there is insufficient aid getting to ailing residents, a humanitarian crisis is intensifying by the day. Meantime, a separate ceasefire negotiation between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon on shaky ground. U.S. envoy Amos Hochstein has arrived in Israel to continue negotiations. A proposal appeared to have an agreement on all sides earlier this week, but now it is in question over Lebanese and Hezbollah concerns. The proposal would allow Israel to keep striking even after a truce is reached.
Israel will tell you that it wants to have drones and overflight ability to go through across Lebanon at this point, and indeed having close to the Syrian border. So, I mean, these are major sticking points, and I simply cannot imagine the Lebanese government being able to actually see that level of sovereignty.
In Lebanon, Israeli strikes and ground incursions have killed more than 3,500 people, including women and children, and forced 1 million people from their homes. In Israel, 44 civilians have been killed and 60,000 residents have been displaced because of Hezbollah attacks over the border. Credit card debt just keeps going up and up, hitting a record high as interest rates soar. But as the National News Desk's Angela Brown reports, an unlikely duo in Washington is hoping to make a change.
President-elect Donald Trump and Senator Bernie Sanders far apart on many issues, but not this.
And while working Americans catch up, we're going to put a temporary cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. We have no choice.
A promise Trump made on the campaign trail, now backed by Bernie Sanders, posting this on X. I look forward to working with the Trump administration on fulfilling his promise to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. But Congress has been down this road before.
Well, you know, it's interesting because liberal congresspeople like Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like they proposed a credit card cap a few years ago that was actually quite a bit higher at 15%. And that didn't go anywhere in Congress.
You just heard from Ted Rossman from Bankrate. He says that while lower interest rate sounds good, it could have consequences, with banks making less profits.
Credit access would be limited. Rewards would likely go away for those who are paying in full.
The Federal Reserve has raised interest rates 11 times between March of 2022 and July of 2023. Republican Josh Hawley proposed an 18% cap last year on credit card interest rates. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Well, some good news to report as we track new numbers on volunteerism across the United States. It looks like it is on the rise. According to AmeriCorps research, about 28% of Americans joined in organized volunteerism, donating their time at least once between September of 2022 and 23. That is a 5% increase over numbers from 2021, though still lower than pre-pandemic levels. However, informal assistance like helping neighbors rose to 54%, which is the highest level seen in the last 6 years. In your health report tonight, your life could be saved with the help of artificial intelligence. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shows us how it's being used to help detect lung cancer.
Hey there, everybody. This new technology uses artificial intelligence, or AI, not only to help speed up results of a lung scan, it also ups the odds that something suspicious will be found early in those at risk for this cancer.
Beth Asbrock knows she's at risk.
I lost a son in 2000, and through that whole process and trying to survive that, I started smoking again, and it's been an on and off thing for the last 24 years.
So every year here at Ohio's UC Health, which provided this video, she gets a lung screening test. It provides a CT scan image that looks like this to her medical team. Dr. Sangeeta Kapoor specializes in reading these images.
Each CT scan has about 9 million data points. So the small cancers will be like a minuscule percentage of that big data. And it's like looking for a different looking star in a night sky full of stars.
Unless, she says, you have what allows you to do this. Take a look at all these white spots.
Now I'm going to pull in our AI-generated images.
See how they disappear?
So they've been removed from the image by the software. So what remains? Just the funny-looking stars. So the only thing that remains now is what I care about. The funny-looking stars / lung nodules that could be cancer.
In addition to that, the AI program will help evaluate size.
Maybe they're being treated, and we want to know if the patient's nodule shrank or grew. In those cases, we can look at these numbers, which are objective because they have been created by the computer.
So far, all of Beth Asbrock's scans have been clean.
I am getting ready to go through my third lung screen. Here it'll be at the beginning of the year.
But she says having a specialized human team with AI as a member of it gives her the best possible information, which so far has given her peace of mind. Now, none of this, of course, saves lives if those who are eligible don't get this screening. If you think you may be at risk, ask your primary care doctor to refer you to a facility near you. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Liz, thank you. Coming up, here from some of the thousands of people who traveled to Texas from around the world to see the next step in space travel. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Ohio with a deadly home explosion.
Neighbors woke up to a boom that leveled this home, sent debris flying, and had those same neighbors calling for help.
Hi, Victory Drive. A house just literally blew up. It's at the end of the road. I believe somebody's house just exploded. The house at the end of the road exploded.
One of the callers tells the dispatcher the house belongs to an older man and woman. He can see the HVAC worker out front, but doesn't know where the homeowners are.
He come running from the residence. His hair was still on fire. We gave him water, tried to calm him down, and moved him to a better location.
Fire Chief Christopher Cooper says it took firefighters 45 minutes to control the flames, adding it's too soon to determine the exact cause of the fire, despite the home being heated by a propane tank.
Booked it Sunday night, and here I am Tuesday morning.
To Austin, Texas.
Oh, it is a huge deal, and Elon Musk is just fantastic.
All crowded the South Texas beach to be part of history. Brian O'Rear flew down from Louisville, Kentucky on Tuesday morning. He says the fact that people traveled from far and wide to see the launch shows that folks want to be informed about the future.
It shows that inspiration and reaching for something just absolutely impossible will always be interesting to people.
O'Rear says that seeing people literally reach for the stars can inspire others to try and do the same in their own lives.
It's inspiring, it's breathtaking. It reminds us that we can do things that are beyond our imagination.
4 University of Rochester students now under arrest in connection to the wanted posters that campus leaders say targeted members of its Jewish community. The university's president, Sarah Mangelsdorf, releasing a statement saying in part, quote, that such activity may have been perpetrated by our own students is particularly disappointing. The university's associate vice president of public safety calling the actions deplorable. Meredith Dragon, the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Rochester, sees the wanted posters as an attack.
Protest is one thing, and that we've seen lots of protests, and they were done peacefully. But this was specifically targeting individuals. This was unique for a university campus to put up wanted posters for particular individuals, the vast majority of whom are members of the Jewish community.
And it is an old word that's been given new life. Coming up, what's taken the top spot as the 2024 Word of the Year? Cambridge Dictionary has unveiled its word of the year, and it is, drumroll please, manifest. That's the word. The verb means to use methods such as visualization and affirmation to help you imagine achieving something you want in the belief that doing so will make it more likely to happen. Cambridge Dictionary says the word has been looked up nearly 130,000 times on its website, becoming one of its most viewed entries. So perhaps the word manifested itself into taking that high honor. Other words on the 2024 shortlist include brat, a newly coined slang word that refers to someone who is confident and independent, along with ecotarian, which references the trend towards environmentally conscious living. And that does it for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage of America's top stories. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.